You can see any of our beers on the shelf, whether it's a beer you've heard of or if it's a brand new beer, you see it and you know that it's Crooked Crab. And a lot of people will pick up our beer if they've never heard of us. They'll buy it just for the label, right? The first time. And then just the branding is super important.
Yeah.
One piece of advice we got was your money is made in the tap room. Invest in the tap room. Like, don't make it a tiny little bar with all the room for production. Like, you need to be able to accommodate people here.
Adding food into the mix, how has that impacted visitations and overall sales in the tap room?
We actually see a lot of people coming in just for food. We get a lot of families that'll come in. Having food has actually increased our draft sales. And instead of people coming in and getting one beer and then going to the restaurant down the street, they're coming in here, they're getting multiple beers and they're getting food. The food sales are awesome, but it's also helped our beer sales as well, which has been great.
All right. Well, guys, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So, just to dive right in here, what inspired you guys to start Crooked Crab, and also where did you get the name?
I guess I'll
go for it.
That one first. So I'm Earl, by the way. I'm the one of the co-founders and general manager of Crooked Crab. I was a project manager for an IT company. I was in DC. I was doing that for years after college, and picked up home brewing on the side. It was just like a fun hobby of mine, and always thought it would be fun. Like, it was like a pipe dream of mine to start a brewery, right? Like, it's something I'll do when I'm like old and retired or whatever. And was having beers one day with Dan and Alex at a brewery that's not even open anymore, actually. And I kind of pitched them the idea of like, I'd be cool to start a brewery, and they knew that I, was into home brewing and stuff. And to my surprise, they were like, "Yeah, let's do it." I don't know how serious they were about that at the time, but I was serious about it. So I went home, like, sketched out like a rough, business plan and sent it to them, and it just kind of got more and more real after that until we actually finally opened. The name Crooked Crab we kind of stumbled on by happy accident. Actually, originally we wanted to, so, we're all born and raised in Maryland.
Yep.
We wanted to have a very Maryland evoking name, right?
Yeah.
And crabs are very synonymous with Maryland.
Mission accomplished.
So we actually, originally the name that we settled on was Blue Crab Brewing Company. We're like, it's perfect, it's Maryland, it's easy. We went to get the name trademarked, and the trademark got rejected because there's a winery right in Virginia.
Yep.
There's a winery in Virginia that makes a brand of wine called Blue Crab wine. So we went back to the drawing board. We were trying to, we liked the crab thing, trying to figure out like a fun name. And we were like, Dan and I are just like texting names back and forth. They're getting progressively worse and worse as we're texting. And I texted him half jokingly, "What do you think about cooked crab?" And he misread the text as Crooked Crab. He's like, "Oh, Crooked Crab, that's a good name." I was like, "Yes,
That's awesome.
that is a good name." So yeah, it's just kind of a happy accident with that.
I love it. I love it. And so Crooked Crab, you're in Maryland. You started this you just pitched it to your friends, and then it became more and more serious over time. You mentioned that you had the initial kind of scope of a business plan. What did that business plan entail in the beginning, and did you actually follow it, or did it end up being something totally different?
So we spent a long time business planning and talking to a ton of people along the way. I think our first formal meeting, if I remember, was August of 2015.
Wow.
That's when we sat down, I think maybe at Manor Hill Brewing. This is like post
I love
drunken
Manor Hill.
pipe dream.
Yep.
And talked about what would it look like if we opened the brewery. We put in a business plan with like what our goals were, what our mission was, pro forma financials, who we would need, like ton of detail, flushed it out over a year talking to other people in the industry. One thing that I love about the brewing community is everyone's very open.
Yep.
So whenever we knocked on a door and said, "Hey, will you talk to us?" They said, "Yeah, come on over." no one hides anything. They tell you all the great stuff and the dirty stuff about operating the business.
Yep.
So it was a really good business plan. At the time, I was working for a company where I had to get any outside business activity approved. So I had to submit the business plan to them for them to allow me to even be involved in this. And the president of the company came back to me. He's like, "It's the best business plan I've seen, and I do this a lot."
Wow.
So I was pretty proud about what we did. And whether by design or by accident, I think we actually followed a lot of what was in there. So if we look back today, we focused on mostly a 3-year vision, and we're about 7 years in now to actually being open. And I think a lot of what we set out to accomplish, we did, with the main difference being that I think at the time, like tap room traffic wasn't what it is today. Like people come and drink at breweries a lot more than they did 7-10 years ago. So we thought a lot of our beer would be going out into the world, but fortunately, we have a lot of it staying in-house because people like to hang out here.
And is that a byproduct? I guess there's a couple reasons for that, but have you found that distribution has gotten more challenging over the years? Or do you still have a pretty heavy distribution footprint, or where's the business model going now?
It's certainly gotten more competitive. Thankfully, for us, we do still distribute a lot of beer. Thankfully for us, we make a great product. We've got great branding. Like our beers do well on the shelf or in bars and restaurants. So our distribution is still pretty strong, but it's gotten a lot more competitive, and you're constantly having to fight for the same shelf space over and over again. And you have to make good liquid to send a lot of beer out into the world, which thankfully we do. That's our mission. But there's more and more brands that are distributing. There's more breweries in Maryland now than there's ever been, and there's more out-of-state brands coming into Maryland and distributing beer into Maryland. So it's just the space has gotten a lot more competitive, and it takes a lot more to succeed.
Yeah, also at a time where consumer preference is shifting. So I think people are being more calorie conscious or shying away from alcohol in general.
Yeah.
So a lot of brands are struggling, I think, especially at the macro level. You see a lot of this data because it's more publicly available.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we've seen our distribution grow year after year, but we're very conscious of the fact that there are headwinds to overcome along the way. When we opened, there were like 50 breweries, and now I've lost track, but it was approaching 200, and I'm sure blown past that by now in the state.
Yeah, it's definitely, I hear that from brewery owners all the time, that it's just increasingly competitive. One of the things, though, that I think that you guys do really well is, from a branding standpoint, because you're so zeroed in on Maryland, I feel like that stands out to a very specific target customer on the shelves, whereas other people, like, they're just kind of trying to come up with a cool design and they throw it on the shelves, whereas yours is like, okay, this is a very clearly a Maryland brand. If I'm from Maryland, I'm going to buy this. Has that been, I'm sure obviously that is intentional, but to what degree do you feel like that has helped you in the distribution landscape?
It's been invaluable, I would say. Like our branding is, the thing that I love about it the most is the consistency of it, and that you can see any of our beers on the shelf, whether it's a beer you've heard of or if it's a brand new beer, you see it and you know that it's Crooked Crab. Our artist, Chris Bishop, he does a phenomenal job with all the artwork. And we've got a great rapport with him. I think like some of the wacky creations he comes up with, just like, it makes us laugh. Like, the labels are fun. They're colorful, they catch your eye on the shelf. And a lot of people will pick up our beer. If they've never heard of us, they'll buy it just for the label, right? The first time. And then thankfully, because we've got a great product, they're like, wow, that beer was really good. And now the next time they go to the store, they're going to seek us out. And I think that that's part of the reason why our beers are doing well in distribution, where some other breweries are struggling. Just the branding is super important.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking with another brewery owner about this, and this guy also has a very well-defined brand, and it's very clearly for a certain type of customer. And what he was saying about this was, with a lot of breweries, it's like the brand is just kind of vague and abstract, and you kind of he was basically saying, like, you have to squint to see what they're really all about. And his advice was basically, when you're branding any kind of company, it should be crystal clear exactly who your target customer is just off of the labeling and the branding.
And to go off of that, I think if I showed, a few of our labels to somebody that was unfamiliar with us, and I would say, define this brand in 3 words, would they use the same 3 words that we want them to say about our brewery? Like, I think that we're fun, we're creative, we're like, I don't know the right words to think of, but I think that somebody seeing our beer and package, they would say the same things about us that we want them to say about us. Like our brand is telling the story that we want to tell, and it's resonating with people the way that we want it to resonate.
Yeah. I would, if I had to pick 3 words for you guys, it would be Maryland, maybe nautical.
Yeah.
And fun would probably be another good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I think you guys have done an awesome job with the branding. It's I can see why you do well in distribution.
Yeah.
To tie it into the business plan, if you look at that first page, we have a who we are thing, and it definitely said we are Maryland and we are fun. So it's ingrained in us that that's what we're driving towards, and hopefully we're executing on that.
Yeah.
At least in some part.
You can see where I got the nautical from if you look behind you, that mural back there.
Yeah. So our original logo, it's the belly of the crab from the original logo that's up on that mural over there.
Oh, nice.
That was the first piece of artwork. Well, the first piece of artwork we accepted for the brewery. There were some other failures along the way. That was before we got Chris Bishop doing all our labels, and now I think he's done hundreds of designs for us, which is like the biggest throughput since we started putting out beer in cans.
Yeah. And do you guys what are your flagship beers? Like, what are your best-selling beers that are kind of the staples of your business?
Yeah, we have a couple core beers that we make all the time. Haze for Days is our flagship. It's a pale ale IPA, I guess. It's 6% hoppy, absolute crusher, very sessionable. That beer does really, really well for us. Both cans, draft, in the tap room, out of the tap room. That's the one that you'll see in more places than anywhere else. We do a couple other beers year round. We have Furious George is Hefeweizen. It's just like a wheat beer, really light, easy, does well in the summer, warmer months. Pillsbo Baggins is a newer one for us that we do year round for us. Great name. That's a Bohemian Pilsner. So we have that one year round. And then the newest beer that we started doing year round is Pizza Shark. It's amber ale. That was one where we made it once as a seasonal, and then it was just a silly name. There's no pizza or anything in the beer. It's just an amber ale. Yeah. But the branding on it is fun. And when we opened the expansion side, we have a pizza kitchen. So we had the idea of our pizza oven to be the shark from the Pizza Shark label, where you feed pizza into the shark's mouth. So awesome. the oven is really fun. And we were like, well, we got to bring that beer back now that we've got the branding, over on the new side. And when we brought the beer back, it just did really, really, really well for us in the tap room. It's a great food beer, pairs well with pizza. So it sold really well, so we just kept making it, and now it's just become a staple for us.
Nice. Makes sense. And sorry, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to mention ambers are also just very approachable beers. So when you have people who aren't very into these crazy styles that a lot of craft breweries are putting out, like you can hand them an amber and they're going to be happy. Similarly, out in distribution and restaurants and bars, it's just a good staple,
just solid
beer to have.
Yeah. This is a little off topic, but I saw I think it was a Vice News article the other day, and I saw it on Facebook, and it was talking about basically why the craft brewery industry is going under. And I started reading the comments on it, and all the people commenting on it were like, oh yeah, it's no wonder, because all these breweries are making these like weird abstract beers and forcing people to drink them. And I mean, I like trying out new beers. I love a good IPA. I'm an IPA guy. But I do feel like there is a need to just have like a staple, beer that everybody enjoys, that goes well with food, that isn't so out there that you can rely on.
Yeah, one of my old coworkers who also was a partner in a brewery kept referring to beer flavored beer. Like the brewery that he had a master brewer who just liked wonky stuff.
Yeah.
And they never had something where just a normal person can go in and grab something.
Yeah.
One of our philosophies is to have something for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
We have over 20 beers on draft at all times. So you can find something that you'll drink and be happy about. Not everything needs to be for everyone.
Yeah.
But we do want to make sure that we have something for everyone.
Yeah, makes sense. And so going back to the flagship beers, what percentage of those, I mean, how big of a percentage of those do those flagship beers make of your overall sales? Is that the bulk of it, or is it?
For distribution, they probably make up the majority of it for sure. And that's also because when we do a limited one-off beer, we're just going to have a lot more of it available here in the tap room. We're always going to prioritize that as opposed to sending it out in the world where we don't make as much money off of it.
Yeah.
So you will see our like specialty stuff out in the world, but as far as wholesale goes, it's definitely majority core product that you'll see out in the world. Here in the tap room, it's probably 50-50. We do sell a lot of Haze, Pills, Pizza Shark, but we also sell a lot of whatever the newest hazy IPA we have, or if we do seasonal beers, like our Crabtoberfest always does really well. That time of year, we did a winter lager called Snow Crab that absolutely crushed. So we have seasonal beers will spike, but the core beer is just kind of consistent.
Got it. That makes sense. I mean, people go to a tap room to experiment a little bit and try new things. So.
And we find people will come in and they'll try the new hazy, and then they'll go back to haze for days.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of their standby. They want to try some of the new stuff, but they know like I can come in, I can get haze for days. I'm going to be happy with that. So we do see a lot of that.
That makes sense. And so looking at the tap room, you guys you started in this room that we're in now, and then obviously they won't be able to see this off camera, but there's a whole other side of the tap room that's bigger than this room, right?
Yep.
So you guys expanded the tap room, and so I'm imagining that you see the tap room as a pretty big part of your future strategy for the brewery. So, can you take me through kind of how you're looking at things now between tap room and distribution, and how important is the tap room?
Sure. So the tap room's critical. Before we opened and we were in our business planning stage, one piece of advice we got was your money is made in the tap room. Invest in the tap room. Like, don't make it a tiny little bar with all the room for production. Like, you need to be able to accommodate people here. So I think we took that to heart. Our first vision was a very small, like storage unit size brewery, which I'm glad we threw out pretty quickly. Our main goal for our expansion was actually to expand production because we were at our capacity and had no more room to add tanks, and there was just a lot of demand. In the negotiations to expand for more production space, they were like, you can take all this space or none of it, nothing in between. So then we had to go back to the drawing board and see what we could do with the rest of it. And I'm very happy we landed on expanding the tap room space because it also allowed us to add food, which I think is critical for the guest experience, especially as you want more and more reason for people to come and visit you. So in a world where consumer preferences might be changing and people might not be drinking as much but still enjoy a craft beer, at least you can still come here and maybe bring your family and have some pizza and wings and then grab a beer and have a good time, even if it's not come, let's sit at the bar and try 10 different beers.
And how has opening up that other side of the tap room, and specifically adding food into the mix, how has that impacted visitations and overall sales in the tap room? Have you found that it's made a pretty tangible, measurable impact?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually see a lot of people coming in just for food, which is cool. And to Dan's point, we get a lot of families that'll come in. They'll get some, pizza for their family, friends, whatever. And the one thing that we weren't necessarily expecting was that having food has actually increased our draft sales, which is awesome. We were doing food trucks before, and it was fine. It was a marriage of convenience. We didn't want to deal with food, and it worked out for them because we have a built-in customer base. But having a consistent menu, having consistent food, it's the same thing like you said with the core beers. If you know that you can go there and you can get this pizza or you can get these wings, and you know you're going to like it, now you can plan your evening around it. And instead of people coming in and getting one beer and then going to the restaurant down the street, they're coming in here, they're getting multiple beers and they're getting food. So it's the food sales are awesome, but it's also helped our beer sales as well, which has been great.
It's funny you say that. We interviewed Diamondback Brewery. I think it was actually episode 2 of this podcast, and they went through the exact same thing. They didn't have a pizza oven. They added a pizza oven, and they found visitations went up, and also beer sales went up for that exact reason. It's like people want somewhere where they can actually sit down and hang out for hours, not just basically a pregame spot where they pop in for a drink before they go to their actual dinner.
Right.
Yeah, I think Diamondback does this well too. It's not just pizza, right? Anyone can make a pizza. They make good pizza.
Right, yeah.
I think we also make good pizza. So we're trying to put the same focus on quality with the food that we are with the beer. So we're hoping that, when people think of Crooked Crab, they're like great beer and great pizza, not just we can grab food there too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it makes a lot of sense. And you guys, the space here is huge. So you have walk-ins, obviously, that people can just come in and hang out. You do weekly events, you do private events. So can you walk me through, kind of how you prioritize those different things? Are you mostly trying to market for people to just walk in and hang out, or is it mostly to get people to maybe a trivia night, or I think I saw you guys are doing goat yoga soon, and
what the goal with programming is always just to bring people in the door. And one of the fun things about doing varied programming is it brings different types of people in the door that maybe have never been here before. We've done we did an event with a bookstore, and we did a boozy book fair, and that brought in a ton of people that had never been here before, which is really cool. So anything we can do to get people in the door, and then once they try the beer, once they try the food, wow, that's, this place is really fun. This place is really awesome. They make great food, great beer. It's going to bring more repeat customers back. We've also seen with private events, we've gotten a lot of just organic business growth from that, where, somebody might have a 100-person, birthday party, and then 2 or 3 people that are guests of that birthday party are like, wow, that space is really awesome. I want to book my next event there. Yeah. And then we get a lot of just repeat business from people that are coming here for private events. So having this separate space, this separate taproom space, and be able to do private events has been huge. But yeah, I think the goal with programming is just give people a reason to come. Yeah. And a lot of places make great beer. There are a lot of restaurants that make great food. Why are they going to come here? Why are they going to come to Crooked Crab? So we got to give, it's just the overall experience, give somebody a reason to come in, do something fun, create a fun atmosphere and environment for people to enjoy.
Yeah, I saw you guys are also doing, I think it was called Crab Tunes. Yeah. It's like a cartoon watching event. It was at 10 a.m. on a Saturday. Yeah. So with events like that, I'm imagining you're not going to sell a whole lot of beer at 10 a.m. on a Saturday, right?
One would be surprised. I don't know.
So is it just getting people in the door to just introduce them to the brand and be like, hey, maybe I'll come back at 7 p.m. on a Saturday next week?
Yeah, we like having fun, right? It's fun for us to do events like that and fun for the team here to put those on. So I think that's a part of it. We're also very focused on our community. So Odenton has been really good to us, and to be able to bring things that are fun for people who live around here to do, I think is great. Odenton backwards is famously nothing to do. Hopefully that's changing every year for the better. But just to bring some life to the area and show appreciation for the people who've been good to us is part of why we do programming. We have a very big space here, so we're just trying to make the most of it.
Makes sense. Yeah, well, I like that you guys are diversifying the types of events that you offer quite a bit, because I see a lot of breweries that just get so caught up in okay, we do trivia on Tuesdays, we do karaoke on Thursdays, and it's just every other brewery out there is doing that, every other restaurant is doing that. So by offering just those events, it's there's not really a strong reason to go to that specific brewery as opposed to like the restaurant down the street or, the other brewery that's doing it. But by doing unique events, it draws different people and draws, a larger crowd in. Like we had a client that he did some metal nights, which is just like, they were like blasting metal music.
Yeah, it was loud. And I'm a metalhead, but it was pretty loud. But it was well attended. People liked it.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah. So it's cool to just kind of mix it up a little bit and,
Yeah.
Test new things. Going back to Odenton and, nothing to do. Why did you pick this location? What was the thought process behind this? And what were some of the things that attracted you to this specific spot? And would you pick this location again if you were to start all over?
To start backwards, yes, we would definitely pick this location again. I think the community has been great to us. The space has been great to us. I wouldn't wish we were anywhere else in the whole world. What we were looking for was we knew we wanted to be in Anne Arundel County. We're all Marylanders who started this, and we wanted to be in the heart of Maryland, which Anne Arundel County, home to Annapolis. It's convenient to everywhere. We thought it would be a perfect spot to put a brewery. And there were no production breweries in Anne Arundel County at the time. You could get like Gordon Biersch or whatever. So we wanted to bring this experience locally. We looked in some other places like Annapolis, and the truth is those communities and the legislators and the laws just weren't friendly for a business model like this. And even when we found a good space, like the landlords didn't want it. Like they didn't know what a brewery was. And Odenton, to the contrary, very welcoming. People were excited. Like we could feel it the second we got here. Not to mention like nice big high ceilings, a ton of parking outside that we somehow still managed to fill up too often. So it worked out really, really well for us. And, it wasn't too expensive either. It was still in the early stages of stuff coming here.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, just having the parking and so it sounds like you guys this spot was like if there's, and I'm not trying to like bash on Odenton, I'm sure it's a great town, but if you're saying like it's a spot where there wasn't much to do, and then you guys come in and you're like, hey, we're going to bring this exciting thing. There's basically a need for it in that market on top of just policies and government being a little bit more friendly here.
And a huge community. So many people live here and so many people work around here. We're near the military base. The NSA is here. There are like residential communities all around us. So it gives us an opportunity to serve them. And I think it's a great mutual relationship.
I think I saw on your site you guys do a military discount on Tuesdays. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you get a lot of military people that come in from?
Yeah, we definitely do. Especially, like to Dan's point, the base is just down the street from us. So we definitely get a lot of military groups that come in. They'll have retirement ceremonies or promotion ceremonies or, hail and farewells and a bunch of, we get random groups of them coming in all the time, which is awesome. We love that. And the other thing that Dan didn't mention when we were talking about events earlier is we also try to do a lot of charity events as well. We've done one with like the local fire department, and we've done numerous different like cancer related fundraisers and any kind of events that we can kind of give back to the local community here. And those are some of our like highest attended events that we do as well.
Wow, nice.
So
nice.
That's always, it makes us feel good that we're doing something for good, but hopefully it resonates with the community as well.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it's a win-win. So looking at the marketing that you guys do for this, you're doing a lot of events. You're pretty heavily distributed throughout the state of Maryland. It sounds like you have an awesome tap room. You do private events and you do cool weekly events. How do you get the word out there? What are the marketing strategies that you guys use?
Very little. I think we do a little bit on Facebook. It's actually an opportunity that I think, we haven't fully tapped into. It's a lot of natural marketing and Facebook marketing. So internally, we've been very grateful that that's the case, and we don't have to do a ton of heavy lifting to get the word out. And I think our branding does a lot of that and speaking for us too. So the pizza kitchen is new. People know Crooked Crab is a brewery. I think that people who don't drink beer in Odenton may still not know that we exist. And we're trying to make sure they know there's a reason to come, even if they don't drink beer, and get word about the pizza kitchen out there. So I think that's what we're going to try to tackle next and tell people who live a mile away, hey, did you know we're right here and you can get some killer pizza?
Yeah.
We're going to explore ways to do that.
Cool. Do you guys do, I saw you have a newsletter sign up on your site. Do you do email marketing?
Yeah, we just like a monthly email blast with events that we've got coming up and beer releases and that kind of stuff.
Okay. So just like once a month, you're blasting something out, basically keeping people up to date.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like the pizza oven is just such a game changer. Because I mean, my wife doesn't drink. So I'll take her to breweries all the time because I'm in the space and, we like to just check out different spots. And if there's not, food there or they don't serve like soda, it's just, I basically can't bring her there. And I feel like that's just becoming increasingly popular, is basically people not drinking.
Yeah.
So it's, you have to have some other option for them where they're going to want to go other than just sit there and watch people drink beer.
Right.
Yeah. And we talk a lot about pizza. Our wings are insane too. One of the events we've done is a Hot Ones hot wing challenge where our kitchen created 5 custom sauces that were increasingly hotter. We got, I don't know how many people, like 100 people in here all tasting them together while Earl and Leon in the kitchen was giving us a guided flavor notes on each of them. For those who did want to drink, we paired them with different beers and did specialty hot beers as well. It was a lot of fun. And
Nice.
Another thing that was community focused, even if not entirely beer focused, and amplified the work that our kitchen does.
Nice. I love that. I wish more breweries would do what you guys do at the events, because I wish they'd get a little bit more creative and do, like hot wings events. And
having the kitchen does help us have a little bit more creativity in what kind of events we can do.
Yeah.
We even did a beer dinner a couple, in December. We shut the kitchen down for the day, and they did a full 5-course meal, and all the food was phenomenal. It was really, really, really good. We got a big attendance of that as well. So yeah, it helps us, do kind of introduce a culinary aspect into some of our events where we didn't previously have the ability to do that.
Yeah. So that's opened up a lot of doors for you guys. Yeah. Man, it's awesome. Well, so what's next for you guys? Where do you see this going in the next 5 to 10 years?
It's a good question. That's the conversation we've been having internally as well, because you have to telegraph a lot of things, what's the trajectory of our business? What's the trajectory of consumer preference? Where's the opportunity? So there are a lot of options. I don't know if any of them are good or bad, but we're just talking about them internally. I'm very cognizant of the fact that it's very easy to overinvest in this industry. We've seen it, and we've seen it work great, and we've seen it be problematic for some people. So I feel like my job here is the Debbie Downer of everyone's just poo-pooing every idea that gets said.
You're the financial planner.
Yeah. And I do that half in jest and half in earnestness, because I'll come around to a good idea, but I want to make sure that I am the one dragging everyone back until you can convince me it's good. And I think with the pizza kitchen, I was the one who's no, I don't want to do that at all. And by the end of our conversations, it's sitting right over there. And I think it's one of the greatest investments that we've made. But I like starting in a position of prove to me this is a good idea. So I think we're in that stage for a lot of different things. And, time will tell what we pursue.
It was a pretty significant investment that we took to open that side and to open the kitchen. So I think the last year plus has really just been streamline those operations and kind of grow that as much as we can, and kind of just take a deep breath before we even think about taking on another
the
large
next
endeavor.
project.
Yeah.
Well, so if you had to, forecast this out a year or so, you've streamlined the operations on that side of things. Things are good. Things are settled. What are some of those things that you're on the fence about right now?
So just to throw things out that we talk about, right? We're one location. There could be multiple locations. we lease, like who knows what's going to happen at the end of this lease term? Do we need a new building? Can we buy a building? Do we expand the food empire, the beer empire? Do we get into different product lines? I think those are things that everyone in the beer industry should be discussing at least, and just vet out whether it makes sense or not. So I think those are the things we've been reviewing internally.
This is, I guess it's on this topic. What are your thoughts on the recent Surgeon General report about?
My mom made sure I knew about it.
Yeah, it's.
I'm not a very PC person. Anything can kill anyone, right?
Right.
So I don't think anyone would sit there and tell you drinking excessively is good for you, or drinking a lot every day is good for you. Like everything should be in moderation. Like I could kill myself with anything.
Right.
So I think everyone should know what's right for them and make sure that they're being mindful of their health. And
Yeah,
I think
nobody's making it out of this alive.
Yeah, exactly. So, if another joke I say is a beer, like every now and then is cheaper than therapy. Like if that's what chills me out, then, anxiety can kill me too.
Yeah. Well, I think, there's, especially in the craft brewery world, nobody's out here promoting overconsumption. And, you're making a good beer, trying to allow people to have a good time and spend time with their family, spend time with their friends, and enjoy themselves in a responsible way. And, I think it's up to the consumer to not overdo it.
Yeah. For what it's worth, we very rarely have issues with people in our tap room like over consuming. Generally, our tap room is a community gathering space, and we get people just coming out to hang out with friends, chat with our bartenders, just enjoy a couple beers, whether it's after work or, on a Saturday afternoon. We're not like a bar, so to speak, where people are coming here to get hammered. It's a very different vibe.
Yeah.
We, when we opened, there were limitations on how late a brewery can stay open. I think 10 o'clock was the latest. They lifted that restriction shortly after we opened. And I remember people coming to us and saying, look, you can stay open till like 1 or 2 a.m. now. And we're like, no, that is not what this space is. Like nothing good's happening here after midnight, so we never changed our hours just because that's the vibe.
Yeah. I mean, I don't blame you. As a business owner, I wouldn't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
All the 2 a.m. crowd. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, this was awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun, and I'm gonna walk away with like a 6-pack or something.
Sure.
So I gotta try the beer now.
Yeah, of course.
Which beer would you recommend?
He's an IPA guy, he said.
Yeah, if you're an IPA guy, we just released a new one last week called Crab Bebop. That's really good. You met Steve earlier. He's been here from the beginning. He has a number of beers named after him. The Steve beer line. So we have.
That's right up my alley, I guess.
We've got a hazy IPA called Need for Steve. That's also really good.
That's the one.
So
Sold.
that one's also really good. So I'd go that direction.
Okay, I'll go that direction. Actually, last question: how can people find out about you guys?
At Crooked Crab Beer on Facebook, Instagram, crookedcrabbrewing.com. Go look for the awesome cartoony cans in your local beer and wine store. Look for Crooked Crab on draft menus when you're out, and come pay a visit to Odenton.
All right, love it.